This is a live presentation of the Titan Upload Network. The Power Hours on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. We are on the Titan Upload Network, and I am your host, Michael Bishop. Thank you for joining us tonight on this Monday evening. Guys, I'll tell you what, it's been a crazy day. I was stressing, and I'll be honest, I was really hoping I was going to get here on time. I had a busy day at my other job, and believe me, it was crazy. I basically was like just burning the flame pretty hot today just to get here and make sure that I did the show on time and nothing ran behind, because I have so much to talk about. And believe me, as stressful as it was, I'm glad I'm here with everybody watching the show tonight. Everybody starts piling in. And of course, got to give a shout out to Mom, always watching, always there. Great seeing her. Good seeing you, Mom. Love you. Mean it. Our buddy Bryce Pratt coming in too, and everybody is starting to get comfy and getting ready to watch the show. But let's go ahead and introduce our guest tonight. From Titan Torch, it's our good friend Zach joining us on the Power Hour tonight. And Zach, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be on. Ready for the season to start.
And it definitely seems like it's just kind of just crawling along. We're just getting through these preseason games, and just a fresh slew of cuts has happened. So your take right now of what you've seen in the past two preseason games, how do you feel about Tennessee so far, adding the players that they have right now to the roster?
I like what I've seen. It's always exciting to watch Malik Willis play. I don't think I have expectations as high as like other people do, because I don't think it's a given that he's going to, he's like our franchise quarterback in waiting or anything like that. If Ryan Tannehill plays awesome, then that's cool, but it's awesome to watch him play and develop. And, I tweeted the other day that I love this draft class, and, I'm just excited to see all of them play. And there's even a few that I've forgotten about that have made big plays that are exciting to watch. So, just overall, I'm just glad that football is back. And then I love, watching these new players come in and try to earn a roster spot too.
And it has definitely been an interesting preseason, just to say the least. But we'll be talking a little bit about the Titans and the Bucs coming up a little later. But first, we've got some top news to talk about. So what do you say? You ready to jump into it?
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody's piling in once again, getting ready to watch the show. Our good buddy Lewis, I guess you were kind of first, but, I'll let it slide. You got to get in a little earlier, Lou, but I'm not going to hold that against you. Everybody's in the show. I'm Michael Bishop. Welcome to the Power Hour. Let's jump into our top news today. And jumping into it, we've got a lot to go over, so let's just get started with our first topic of the day. And it appears that Matt Corral will be out for the year. The quarterback basically went and injured his lint string on his ankle, and apparently it's a situation that they feel that will require surgery going forward. And basically this also set the precedent of basically letting Baker Mayfield know that he's won the quarterback job outright, and he will be the starter for the foreseeable future. So, Matt, what's your take from the last couple of days just throughout this training camp that the Carolina Panthers have basically gone through?
I think that I hate that he's injured and he's going to miss the whole year, but I don't, after they got Baker, I think that, it was kind of obvious that it was either going to be him or, I don't know if Sam Darnold really had a chance after they got Baker Mayfield, but, it's a terrible thing to miss your entire rookie year, but I think he was going to sit most of the year anyway. So, now he's got an opportunity to rehab and learn the playbook and kind of like Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill. Like it was probably going to be a few years anyways, or at least a year and a half. So it's not a good thing that you're hurt, but it's not. I don't think it ruins the Panthers' plan for this year, at least.
And my apologies, Zach. I believe I called you Matt. Maybe I did. I'm not sure. I'm just really tired. It's the preseason, and I'm glad I'm just getting this stuff out of the way. So my apologies if I did.
That's fine. That's my brother's name. So,
well, that's worse. I don't want to call you your brother. But it really does set an interesting idea that now that potentially the Carolina Panthers have a quarterback that they could use for trade bait if they wanted to. It would seem that Bleacher Report put out a trade idea sheet not just long ago, and I had a few minutes to skim through it, and it would seem that Sam Darnold would be a very interesting trade prospect for the Seattle Seahawks if they're looking to find a quarterback. So what would you think of that?
I could see that happening. Hasn't the staff and general managers kind of said that they're behind Sam Darnold, though? I guess that was before the Mayfield acquisition.
Well, from what I read, it seemed like after the news, they had already questioned Sam Darnold about the decision and basically, quote him, he said, "It sucks to lose a job." And it would seem like that maybe he'd be fine with taking the backup role, but at the same time, with quarterback needy teams, especially like the Seahawks, really not knowing what they have, I don't think it's a bad idea to potentially just trade away maybe potentially a third or fourth round pick to just get him for the year.
Yeah, I think that would be fair. The Seahawks, are probably going to try to do something like that to get another quarterback or whoever they believe in. So, I don't see a problem with that. I don't know if I would do a third, maybe a fourth, like you said. So, do you know if this the article that they put out about the trades came out before the injury?
I would say that it would have
I was just
possibly
wondering,
come
like,
out.
if he's out for the year and Baker's your starter and you trade Darnold, like who would be? They have PJ Walker, I guess.
I think they still might have PJ Walker on the roster. If anybody in the chat knows, definitely let us know. And I mean, that's a fair assessment also. Do you feel 100% confident that Baker Mayfield can handle the job for the long haul?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that's no matter what happened, I think that's why they drafted who they drafted, and he's in their long term plans. And Baker, was just kind of a short term upgrade. So, I don't think that losing Darnold and then having Baker for the year, or trading Darnold, having Baker for the year, and then having Matt, is it Corral?
Matt Corral.
Matt Corral is, as your quarterback next year or a year and a half from now. I think that's the long-term plan anyway. So if you can get something for Darnold and let Baker, earn the starting position for the long term, then that's kind of what they've been forced to do anyways right now. So.
And Ryan Harris, shout out to Ryan Harris, the Jump Pass podcast. Make sure you check that out while you're watching the show. Brings up a good point. They currently have at the moment 3 quarterbacks with Corral being out. So if they feel confident enough with whoever's behind Sam Darnold at this point, I mean, if they wanted to make a trade, I think it would be a good idea for the Seahawks, especially if they're not completely sold on what they have at the quarterback room. But that's just one opinion. Do you think there's another team out there that could potentially roll the dice on Darnold?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Maybe the Jets. They're not gonna take him back, but they could use somebody. Who needs a quarterback? I'm not sure a lot of people would trade a third and a fourth just, for Sam Darnold unless, they're trying to do something different than just, try to make it through another year. But
and that's my assessment. I don't know really what Sam Darnold's value is. I mean, he could really be worth a value meal for all I know at this point because.
Yeah, and I think it might depend on what his contract is too.
And that's another great point because eventually I would say that Carolina would have to try and find a way to work that out, especially now that they're on par to basically pay a good part of Baker Mayfield's contract as well.
This says that his salary is almost 19 million, but the guaranteed hit, well, it's all guaranteed this year. So I'm not sure how that works when you're trading, but he'll be a free agent next year. So,
and I would have to say, if they decided to make a move, the Seahawks would be a good destination. But for the time right now, Matt Rule definitely is on the hot seat. He's one of the coaches that has basically been really given no chance to have any kind of success with this team, just with a lot of questions going in the season. But having your young rookie miss most of the year, it definitely hurts. But I think it's going to be a good learning curve for him, especially to try and just get himself healthy and just focus on the playbook. But I think the final point I'll make on this, and I'll ask you this as well, is it really going to be more difficult for Corral going into next season, not even knowing who his head coach might potentially be?
Yeah, that could be a possibility. I haven't really kept up with the whole situation. I know that he's on the hot seat. And I know that they want to, make a bigger splash this year. But it might be a situation that Corral's going to come into a situation where it's kind of like the shirt I'm wearing is Marcus Mariota, where Marcus Mariota had three different head coaches and 4 different offensive coordinators, and he's kind of set up to fail from the beginning. So, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason that they keep Matt Rule, is just for some consistency for Corral. But, I could see them making it. It could go either way. I guess it just depends on how the season goes. But it would be a bad situation for him to come into next year.
And I definitely agree with that. The situation at best seems bleak, but once again, as we always say on the show, we'll just have to wait and see how things play out as the season progresses. Getting to our next piece of news, it appears that Roquan Smith of the Bears has decided, well, I'm probably not going to get that trade that I wanted, so I'm just going to play out this year and see what happens for next year. And what potentially could have been a very game-changing move if any team wanted to try and make a move for this talented linebacker, you would still have to think that the Bears were probably going to try and shop for a first-round pick for his services. So a smart move on his behalf, basically, to just sit and wait it out. Do you think that this is the best move for him going forward?
As a fan, I like to see players play. I think if I was in the situation that he was in, I might not have decided to play and try to get as much money as I can. But if he decides to play, that's awesome. It's good for the Bears. And I can't remember when the trade deadline is. But if he's going to play and try to earn a bigger deal or up his stock and go to a team that he wants to play for, or that's going to be willing to pay him what he wants to make. So, as a fan of just football in general, I love to see guys play, especially on his level. Deciding to play instead of hold out is awesome.
And I mean, a trade definitely isn't off the table just as of yet. He's basically said he'll play out his contract this year. But if the Bears feel that there's just reason to sell while the stakes high and just cash in the chips on this one. What team would you say would probably be the best fit? Probably not only financial wise, but just scheme wise for his services.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot again.
I got to ask the tough questions now.
People that need a linebacker. I was looking up how much he makes too because I wasn't sure. I think he's like in the $9 million range this year. Let me think about it just for a second. I think maybe the Broncos. Broncos would be something I could see happening.
Okay.
They they signed a couple guys that they brought in as linebackers, but if they have something that they can trade, for the Bears. I was trying to think of people that weren't in the conference or weren't in the division, because I don't think that would be a possibility. Like, you're not going to trade Roquan Smith within your schedule, I guess. So this year, if they trade him this year, I think that while he's a little bit cheaper, he could go. I think it would be the Broncos or someone that goes all in, kind of like the Rams did, just trading away like most of their future. Someone like the Chargers, who are stacked now, or the Ravens, or I don't know. I mean, I don't think. I think that we're contenders, but I don't see that happening. So, our Titans linebacker room is pretty full and expensive. So, we have our guy that we got last year on like a 1-year deal, and now he's with us, for the future. So I don't think that would happen with the Titans. So I would say, I said Broncos, but I would think that maybe, if someone like the Chargers or Ravens want to go super over the top, it might be someone like them.
And those are some good choices. I could definitely see him, especially dipping the AFC pool. And the Chargers, more than likely, would be interesting, especially since they already pulled off a trade to acquire Khalil Mack. So trying to team those two back up would be interesting. And Lou Man brought up a good team, which I think would be a pretty good fit with the Giants. So if the Bears are willing to trade in the NFC, which that's his prediction, I think would be a good fit. And Al Pierce says nobody was willing to make the trade for help. That screams lack of value. He needs to prove he's worth the cap money and the cost of trade first. And that's a good point, Al. I mean, really, he's still young. He's still trying to figure himself out. And for the better lack of thinking, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he does without Khalil Mack's help in a full season. So if he's willing to go out there and say he wants to get paid, I mean, he's going to have to pay. He's going to have to play to get that pay.
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily earned what the rumors are he wanted. I guess the rumors are that he was kind of upset that it was backloaded. The contract that was offered was backloaded. So I still think that he needs, especially like you said, a good point, without Khalil Mack, is prove that he can be, one of the top linebackers in the league. And then I think it lines up. I think that he kind of saw that it lines up perfectly. Like, if he has a good season this year and then he's a free agent, that he can get whatever he wants pretty much.
And if he goes out there and balls, I'm all for paying the guy. But the thing is, does he feel comfortable in the Bears system? We'll just have to wait and see. But hitting our next story, and it appears that Dana White came out and said that Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski were almost Raiders. And it fell apart because John Gruden said no. So, as interesting as this is, and of course, I'm not going to take White's word for most anything. He's the kind of guy that likes to talk and make stories because he's the guy that has to have the attention on him. So it is what it is. But still, just for the interest of the story, it's kind of an interesting sell right there. Seeing Tom Brady in black and silver. So, Zach, what would you think of that actually happened if we could take a time machine back to 2019 and restrike all that deal stuff?
I saw this yesterday, and I thought that it didn't really this whole time I thought that Tom Brady was talking about the 49ers. And when I saw that Dana
Right.
White said that, I was kind of like you. I don't know, I don't know why he would lie, but I'm not sure if I believe the whole thing because I don't know. I mean, I guess the management wanted him, and then John Gruden was 100% behind Derek Carr. So I don't know. I thought that I thought that Tom Brady was always saying, like in those interviews that he was saying, you guys are really going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo, or he said that guy, but I thought he was talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. And to hear that it's the Raiders is interesting, but I don't think that it would have been a better fit than what ended up happening. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl, and California's nice, comparable to Florida, but I think that Tom's pretty happy and Gronk's pretty happy to be in Tampa, or they were in Tampa Bay, but I don't, like you said, I don't know if that's the 100% truth.
And I mean, I say that because it's easy to say this story because what's John Gruden doing? Is John Gruden going to come out and try and dispute it? No. So
Probably not right now.
I'm not calling Dana White a liar, but I'm not calling him a truther either.
Yeah, I want to know his source.
And Ryan Harris brings up this point. I'm not surprised if it's true because Gruden wouldn't be able to control that team. Players would listen to Tom over Gruden, would have been a power struggle. And I agree with that, Ryan. I mean, Tom Brady definitely has a lot more pull than most coaches do. And that's really one of the reasons why he left New England, because he was never going to be heard over Bill Belichick and never seen more than just a systems quarterback. So even with Tampa Bay, and I mean, Bruce Arians is very lax, but at the same time, he still marches to this beat of his own drum. So the retirement thing, I mean, that comes back into full swing. And then you bring in the Miami Dolphins within that situation. And I mean, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But it's interesting to me just to think the fact that the Raiders actually had a potential shot at landing Tom Brady and Gronkowski, which would have changed the entire damn dynamic of that whole team, which was just scary to even think of.
Yeah, but I still think that it was a perfect situation with Mike Evans was already there, and Godwin. I think Godwin was already there, and then
Agreed.
he got Goodwin. Sorry, is it Goodwin or Godwin? Godwin, and then he got Fournette to come and everything. So I think the roster worked out exactly like they wanted to, and I'm not sure that would have happened with a Gruden influenced team.
And I agree with that point. I mean, Gruden marched to the beat of his own drum, and unfortunately, that just didn't work out for him. But, there's a lot more baggage with that statement. But at the same time, a lot of great players are willing to take pay cuts, especially just taking a lower salary and even lower years on a contract to just have the opportunity to play with Tom Brady. So, did the Raiders miss out? Absolutely. And really, who's to blame here? Is it Gruden? Potentially from Dana White's point of view, but we'll probably never know for a while. At least right now, anyway.
And it kind of is the same. It's kind of the same situation as if you believe that Tom Brady was considering the Titans. I think Mike Vrabel is. I think he's a little bit better person than John Gruden is, but his coaching style and the way he runs the team is probably kind of similar. So that might have, if Tom Brady didn't want to play with Gruden or Gruden influenced it being shut down, then it could have been kind of the same way in Tennessee. Like John Robinson and Mike Vrabel would have not let him run the team and probably chosen who they wanted to bring in, and it wasn't just who wants to play with Tom Brady and try to win a ring. I think Mike Vrabel wants to control kind of like Gruden would. And in Tampa, just it became like an all-star team. So,
And I mean, that was a well put together all star team, and you just needed one transcending star to move the pieces. Moving to our next piece, and I won't talk a lot about this because Lord knows we've heard enough about it, but we'll just get it out of the way. And I'll get to Lou Man's question real quick. Is Ruggs going to play this year? Short answer, no. He's not even with the Raiders, so I wouldn't even worry about that. And pretty much that's a done deal at that point, especially with the situation he's in. But we'll just have to wait to see more about it. But Ruggs and football are the last two things you're going to hear that in a sentence, at least from that standpoint. But that being said, moving back to the point at hand, Deshawn Watson in the NFL came to finally a decision on the suspension and agreed to an 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine. And of course, it's either or for most people. A lot of people think that it was too lenient. Once again, a lot of people felt that he should have been suspended more for a longer period. He should have been fined higher. And I mean, there's so many things to get into it, but I mean, I'll just try and get to the main point here. So, Zach, really just along the lines with everything that's gone down, do you feel that this was the best way to handle this situation? Was this the best situation for Deshaun Watson?
I think he got out like, I don't know. It's hard to talk about it without like bringing your own personal opinion in. I think for Deshaun Watson, he is in the best situation he probably could have gotten with the guaranteed money. And, I know that he doesn't want to miss that many games, but I think it should have been a little bit more severe. And it's kind of odd that he's coming back like 3/4 through the season. But the way that it works out, he comes back against the Texans, and it's in Houston. It's going to be a lot of people are going to watch that game. But if I'm Deshaun Watson, I guess it's a good thing for me that that was all that the punishment was, and that was all that I got fined, and now I'm with a team that I guess isn't bad at all. I think that I have a few friends that are Browns fans, so it's fun to always joke with them or put them down, I guess, with how unstable their quarterback situation is, and now that they have him, and it never ends with their quarterback room. So I guess he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's hard to, like I said, give an opinion without I'm not his biggest fan. So, but for him, it worked out pretty well.
And that's a fair assessment. I mean, really, you just can't. It's a situation I know that's just been handled in a lot of other ways where people just kind of put their 2 cents in. And it's a fine line where you try and just give the best takeaway from this. I don't think it was enough, per se, from my standpoint. I feel you violated basically their code of conduct, so that basically put that in play. But of course, it was argued throughout just litigation and through just a judge's recommendation that it was only good enough for a 6-game suspension moving forward with that. But once again, as you said, it just comes off very suspicious that he's only suspended 11 games. And the game he comes back for, as you said, is against the Houston Texans. So, money-making move, I would have to say yes, just from looking at the bigger picture of it.
I think that I'm more just disappointed in how what's the word? Inconsistent like the suspensions are in the NFL. Like me personally, I think that he, it wasn't harsh enough, or it should have been more money or whatever. But comparing it to others, other violations or broken rules or team rules or NFL rules, like it doesn't seem like anything ever lines up, and nothing's ever like a standard. If you do this, you get this many games, or it's like they're making it up as they go, and that always, that it's not worse than what Deshaun Watson did, but it's just hard to like, I don't know, it's hard to defend the NFL, like in this case when someone punches their spouse or girlfriend or something, or someone bets on a game, and it's all different every time, or someone smokes marijuana. It's always different. It's never like a standard, this is what it is if you do this, and it's just kind of frustrating.
And I agree with you. I mean, Al Pierce brings up the point, it was way too light. And, Al, a lot of people feel that way. I feel that way. Lou also brings up the point that Watson has issues and he needs help, not football. Sorry for harsh criticism. And that's fine, Lou. That's what the show's for. It's to have that kind of opinion and to give that assessment there, and we can discuss it. So, I just look at the whole picture of everything that's happened and how it's transgressed. Yes, they've settled with a majority of, the accusers that have come forward. Yes, he's going to lose out on money. Yes, he's going to lose out on games. And even more so, his public image is just tarnished at this point. He's now basically at the point where he will never live this down. And that's something he's going to have to live with.
Yeah, and the Browns will have to, if the Browns win the Super Bowl, if I was a Browns fan and we won the Super Bowl, I'm not sure how I would feel. If it worked out to be a positive, I'm like, even if the Super Bowl is not the measuring stick, but like if he's your quarterback for the next, if he's your franchise quarterback now, and he's successful, I don't know how happy I would be with it.
I mean, it would have to be bittersweet. I mean, that's a pretty bittersweet pill to swallow. But good, bad, or indifferent, the Cleveland Browns have decided they're tying their flag to Deshaun Watson, and whatever he does in the future, this certainly will definitely shroud him in controversy throughout his entire career moving forward. And in our last bit of news, something a little bit more lighthearted. That's right. It appears that Amazon Prime has released their new theme song for Thursday Night Football. It's finally released to the public, and for the most part, it seems like it's gotten a lot of positive outfeed. So I would have to ask you, Zach, how do you feel about this one? Does it measure up to the standards of an NFL theme song?
Well, that was actually the first time I heard it, and I didn't think that it sounds just like a song would play before a game. So, it's fine with me.
And of course, I got to ask you the hard questions, like I've said. So, where would you rank it all time between all the other ones?
Like
as of right now,
currently, the current theme songs.
Yes.
I mean, I think it would have to grow on me a little bit, so I would put it last for now. But and plus, if it's Thursday Night Football, I don't, unless the Titans or someone in our division is on, I usually don't watch. But it's kind of hard to beat the other theme songs like Fox and CBS and Monday Night Football.
Okay, and you definitely brought those up, so I'll go ahead and ask this question. What's your number one pick?
My number one of all time?
Number one of all time. We'll go that way.
I like when the like they would have a custom, like every week was different with a different like music artist for Monday Night Football. Those are probably my favorite.
Okay, and Al Pierce is right along with you. sounds good, but not as good as the Monday Night Football of the past. And I agree with you, Al.
If you go with like all football, no, I don't think anything beats the SEC on CBS music.
Well, I'll go even a step further, and I'll just say the NFL on Fox has always been just like the standard for me. I just feel like it's powerful. It punches you in the face. It garners your attention. And when I hear that, I just think of like the old days of Madden and Summerall calling games. So
Yeah.
call me old school. I get that nostalgia feeling when I hear it. But everybody's putting in their 2 cents. Al Pierce is definitely Monday Night Football. Ryan Harris is Monday Night Football. Lou likes the Monday Night Football. I love the Monday Night Football song. I think it's one of the best football songs out there. But I mean, if I had to pick, I just feel like the Fox one just garners like just that heavy, just excitement. The Monday Night Football, it's lighthearted, but it builds up to like something big. But that's just me. Everybody's going to be different. Keep getting some more song comments. The NBC theme song is underrated. And I think that's true, Ryan. I really think a lot of people, it's either like, it's always in the middle. Because most people, it's either Monday Night Football or it's the NFL on Fox or even CBS. Sometimes CBS gets the top billing. So that's just the way it is. But I mean, that's fine. Me personally, I can live with either of them. So going forward,
like to hear any of them.
There you go. But I will give props to Amazon Prime. They've went out and got themselves an amazing analyst crew. They've got themselves an amazing game-by-game player and a great color commentator. So they threw money out, and they're showing that they want to make this work. So Thursday Night Football is definitely going to look very, very different from the last few years we've seen. So I'm excited with that.
Who is the announcers?
It'll be Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a bad lineup to have. So they went out, they spent money. They weren't afraid to spend it. So I'll give Jeff Bezos his roses there. The man went out and got the best. Well, all right, guys, we're going to take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, Titans, Bucs, we're going to break down what we liked, what we didn't like, and what we feel like is going to be the stepping stones to shaving this roster down to 53 and get the right guys for the job. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. I'm Michael Bishop, the Power Hour. Back in 30. The Power Hour is on the Titan Upload Network, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us tonight on this great show. Joining us tonight is Zach from Titans Torch. Zach, once again, thank you for joining us on the show and giving your fresh perspectives on all the upcoming NFL seasons.
Thank you very much for having me again. You put me on the spot with those trade destinations, but I was trying to go through my Rolodex of depth charts and trying to figure out who was going to go where or who would be interested in going where. So it's fun to talk more than just, the Titans all the time.
Well, I definitely don't mean to put you on the spot, but I always have to ask the tough questions on the show because I want to make sure that my guests feel a little challenged and definitely get a little more insight and better conversation as we go through. It's good. It's for good viewing. But definitely want you to give a shout out to the fans and let them know where to find you and all your great content at.
I'm mostly posting on Instagram at Titans Torch, and same thing on Twitter. I just kind of post the same stuff on Facebook, but I have a Facebook page. And then your podcast is probably the second or third one I've been a guest on, and I've wanted to start a podcast for the last 2 years, but I've just been kind of building up the social media stuff, content, graphic design, and I'll eventually start a podcast. I've been trying to kind of wait until we move to a different location, and I'll have a better recording setup and everything. So I don't have a podcast, but I will eventually. I have a YouTube up and everything if you want to subscribe to it. But I'm mostly on Instagram and Twitter and just do content on those two.
Well, we definitely look forward to whenever you decide to join in the Titans family and put out your content. But trust me, everybody's hungry for it. So don't be afraid. Go for it. We're rooting for you, man. So take that jump, whatever you're ready for it. And for everybody watching, thank you. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the show while you're watching it. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. And don't forget, we're a part of the Titan Upload Network. So make sure that you follow all our wonderful, wonderful analysts and insiders of Titan Upload, Titan Rossi, and James of Titans for Life. And of course, Brian Joannis joining us as our draft analyst. We've got a lot of stuff coming up this year. We're very excited. So trust me, guys, we've got some great stuff coming up in the works. Stay tuned. You're not going to be disappointed. Well, all right, Zach, let's go ahead and jump into it. We've got a football game to talk about. Titans, Bucs. And this definitely was one that got a lot of attention on all sides of the ball. So, of course, the score tells a different story. And I'll be honest, this was a rough one to watch. I mean, I think right about after the second quarter was done, that was about it.
I think I honestly didn't really pay attention after Malik Willis got taken out. So I was doing other things. So I just kind of look at preseason as like I'm watching like individual players, and a win is nice, but I think we're all just kind of watching, who we like Malik Willis and whoever we want to succeed or see how they're going to do.
And get to some of the comments real quick that we missed. Lewis says he saw Joan Jett in the 80s, so I think he's talking about the Joan Jett Sunday Night Football theme song there, so very cool. And Ryan Harris, by the way, congratulations on joining Titan Upload Network. Great people on that network. Thank you very much, Ryan. Just wanted to get to those comments before I forget it, because we get into a lot of great conversation. So I try my best to make sure I read all y'all's comments. So trust me, I see them. I'll get to them. I promise you. But along the lines with this game, I mean, we just saw Malik Willis once again get the start. And there was a lot of questions, especially with the offensive line. So we'll go ahead and start with Malik. And, of course, he's one of my stars of the night. And didn't have to do much, but at the same time, I felt a little more comfortable with him working in the pocket and trying to make those learning curves and just make some mistakes out there and just live with them and just move forward. I think that's just one of the things, Malik Willis, that I would like to see more of, that he can just bounce back from making these mistakes. So, Zach, from the game perspective of what you saw with Willis, how did you feel about him in his second start?
I think like halfway through his performance, you started to see kind of like it happened. I feel like it happened in game 1 too. He was quick to get out of the pocket sometimes before he even had to. The offensive line's not helping him very much. But even when he had, like Burks wide open down the field, he missed him. And I think there was one where he missed Swaim wide open in the middle of the field in this last game. I feel like he stays in the pocket more as the game progresses. And it's kind of like you see flashes of, okay, he could be special. And then if you like rein that in with his natural athleticism and speed and all that stuff, it could be a great thing. But he just needs to do more of what we saw, like when he threw the touchdown pass, was stay in the pocket, and if the first option is not there, to go to the second or third option and not just automatically scramble, as long as he has the pocket still there. And I don't think that it's been there a lot, but when it is there, he seems to be kind of ready to run when he doesn't always have to.
And you watch him play, and it just seems he gets better with each snap that he takes, and that's just the learning curve. You know, as you said, there were just wide receivers and tight ends in certain spots that he just missed or overlooked, and that's just one thing that I hope that he continues to work on, especially throughout the rest of the regular season, whenever he gets the reps that he needs. So I have to ask also, what's one thing you want to see of him within the last start coming up that you feel that could be a difference maker if he can get this under control?
I think I would just like to see him in the pocket more. Other than that, I don't I don't really have any issues with how he's a third round quarterback, and I think expectations are exactly where they should be with him. And if I would like to see him stay in the pocket more, and then hopefully he gets some more time with people that are going to be starters with the offensive line. I would like to see that, and then I don't know if who's going to play as far as the receivers or tight ends go, but I think it would be a whole lot different if he was playing with the first team offense, like the full first team offense. So maybe we get to see that a little bit, maybe first or second half of the last preseason game. So I also want to see Tannehill, take a drive or two. So I'm hoping that Willis gets to do some more with a better offensive line.
And that's a great point. I would like to see what Malik Willis could do with the starters at some point, but even if it's just if they came in for maybe just a series, just so I could see what he could do with a very veteran, experienced offensive line, if they're willing to do that. But you definitely get the sense, especially with joint practices and the addition of 7-on-7s and heavy use of 11-on-11s, that they're just trying to use that as the competition standpoint and trying to keep their guys healthy this season. But one thing I do think Malik Willis has done a great job of, and I don't think is getting a lot of mentioning, is the fact that he continues to show that he wants to learn. And that eagerness just gets me excited, because anybody that's willing to just go out and say in a press conference, they're still learning, they know that they're making mistakes, but they're going to watch the film and continue to improve. That's the biggest thing they have to do in order to build themselves up to successful levels. Malik Willis shows he has raw talent, and he can utilize that at times, especially in big play moments. But the thing is, it's consistently doing that. And if he continues to grow, especially in this offense, I feel his ceiling continues to be very high.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think that with his situation and the way that he kind of fell maybe a little bit further than he wanted to in the draft, we couldn't have asked for a more humble person, a more someone more willing to learn than he is. He's okay with not being an immediate starter. I think he's going to work his butt off to be that guy, but I think he understands the situation, and he's not going to be someone that is a distraction because he's not the immediate starter, and he wants him and Tannehill are just great people just in general outside of football. So I don't think we could have asked for like a better quarterback to sit behind and learn and just be ready whenever or if we ever need him.
And hopefully it's a situation where he can continue to sit and learn this season. I don't want to throw him out to the Wolves just yet. Lou Man's switching up formats, which that's fine. And he also brings up a pretty good point. He's not Randall Cunningham, more like Jameis Winston. And, I mean, that's a fair comparison, but size-wise, I mean, he's just about the same height as Drew Brees. Comparison-wise, who do you feel Malik Willis' game just shows the best representation of him?
Well, I don't want to, put a high expectation on him, but it's kind of like maybe a little bit less mobile Michael Vick. He's got the speed. He's got when he's running, you can tell like I, I don't think he's going to like just run people over, but he could. And then he's got a cannon for an arm. So it's just all about like putting it all together. And so I would say Michael Vick, or maybe I was trying to think of someone. I think the Jameis Winston comment was pretty accurate. He can do things on his feet, and he's got a big arm. It's just kind of like that prototypical college quarterback that needs to find his accuracy and kind of slow down and become a guy that will make like NFL level throws in those windows where the pros are separated from the athletes, I guess.
And the consistency will continue, especially if he shows that he can make plays, especially with his arm going forward. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes with the matchup against Arizona. But of course, our next stars of the night, and this one was hard. There was just so many great defensive moments. I had to throw the entire defense in because it was a good showing on that defense, especially most of the backups. And for the night, they gathered up 4 sacks, 10 batted passes, and an interception. So really, it just shows just a hungry young core of guys that are willing to get in and make plays, especially if they're not even starting. So, Zach, I mean, what impressed you the most about this defense, and who stood out to you as one of the key playmakers?
Well, this game in particular, I think that I was really impressed with T.R. Tart. I know that he kind of has already earned his spot on the team, but it's awesome to see him out there still giving it his all. I think it's awesome that we found him as an undrafted free agent last year. Another guy, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name because I'm terrible with last names. His name is he's the guy that had he had a sack. David. It starts with an A. Ananahi.
I think that's right.
I know. Yeah, he had a great game. I just like our defensive line. Him with T.R. Tart and Naquan Jones, and then I'm or I forgot to mention Murchison, but I'm a huge Rashad Weaver fan. He didn't really do.
I agree.
He had a sack, but he had a great first game too, and I can't wait to see him play this full year if he hopefully he stays healthy. But I'm impressed with defensive line and then just the depth of our front seven, and just like I said, Rashad Weaver could be a guy that when it comes down to trying to decide. Between some of these higher paid people, that Rashad Weaver takes their spot pretty easily if he continues to develop. And I think Mike Vrabel, loves him. So, overall, the last couple of games, Rashad Weaver, but this game, T.R. Tart was probably my MVP. It felt like even when he wasn't getting the stats, he's always disrupting everything.
And I definitely got to give a shout out to Caleb Farley. I mean, I was very impressed with the way he handled himself. He went out there and really just looked like what we were drafting 2 years ago. So his ceiling just continues to just impress me.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him play health. I think he had a did he just have the one pass deflection?
He did.
But he was all over the place. And same thing with Chance Campbell. I tweeted that I forgot that we even drafted Chance Campbell, and he's going to be a contributor too. And he had a good game.
He did, and really just stepping up for Monty Rice being injured. So, he's taking advantage of getting those snaps in while he can, and really solidifying a roster spot going forward.
It seems like every. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead with your thought. That's fine.
Oh, I was just going to say, it seems like with every miss that we've kind of had with the offensive line drafts or undrafted people, or people we've lost that we make up for with this defense is insane.
And of course, getting to our next star of the game, and this was obvious, it was Mr. Rabbit Hammer himself, Kyle Phillips. Only one catch for 11 yards, but his punt returning was basically the entire highlight of that game for me. One of the things I felt that Tennessee has lacked, and I've said this on multiple shows, they have lacked that big presence on special teams to get the needed yardage to start with better field position. And I feel that Tennessee has that guy.
I think that he's going to be what they hoped Adam Humphries was going to be, if that makes sense.
I think they got better than Adam Humphries. I think they got a Dollar General version of Julian Edelman.
Mm-hmm. When I was thinking about, I figured that we would talk about him. I was thinking about so I don't want to say he's going to be this good, but someone like Cooper Kupp who just comes out of nowhere. Why can't Kyle Phillips be on that same level? Like we could be talking about him in a few years, like as a maybe just as I'm talking about like as a slot receiver, not as a returner, but he could be just as good as that, or he could be even someone like Hunter Renfrow is, but I was impressed with the punt returns. It looks like he doesn't have any fear of, it looks like he wasn't ready to call a fair catch ever. He had a lot of room, and that was cool. But he looks like someone that's going to create an extra 10 yards when he shouldn't have on a punt return.
And as he's been dubbed by his wide receiving coach, the professor, you just see the hard work that he puts in, especially with technique, and just his footwork is like incredible. It's just some of the best work I've seen on a wide receiver at his stature, and from someone that was literally drafted just right outside the 6th round. So you just have to feel that the Titans potentially got a steal here.
Yeah, I think that I think by the end of maybe year 2 with him, people are going to wonder why didn't he go in the 2nd round at least? And that's it's great for us. And with I think Racey McMath is going to be okay, but I'm not sure about Des Fitzpatrick. So over the last few years to finally get, we lose AJ Brown. So to have someone like Kyle Phillips, who's just a huge positive, huge draft steal, at least it looks like so far, is a great thing.
And we definitely will continue to watch his career flourish with interest, and hopefully with a lot of positive reinforcement. So Kyle Phillips, the professor, class is in, and the student body is in session. And I bring this highlight tweet up, and of course you got to look at some of the guys that didn't do well. And Dylan Radins obviously was the easy one right there. And I don't normally go off a lot of PFF stuff. Usually it just kind of feels a little, I guess pedestrian is the best word for using that. But I will say I see with my eyes when I watch Radins play. And when I say that, I saw some good, and I saw some things that he continually struggles at. The fact that he just can't engage with some of the defenders, it's just very problematic. And I feel, especially as an offensive tackle, attacking that defensive end is critical in trying to get that kind of success, especially to let your quarterback have the kind of time that he needs to run a play. So what was your take from Radin's game? And do you think that it would be best if he just potentially try out the guard position like they did today in practice?
I'm just really disappointed, especially with him being a 2nd round pick. And I hope that he does work out as a guard, and I think that's where he's going to end up. And it's not really good for us, especially with our tackle situation. But yeah, I was just, I think he's been terrible, and I don't want him. I mean, I've been rooting for him, and they've switched him around a lot. But I hope that he finds somewhere to, at least be a contributing backup or eventually, be a starting guard that we drafted him in the second round to be.
And I'm fine if he works at guard. I mean, we still don't have a full answer for Roger Saffold leaving. I mean, we don't know what Brewer's going to be. We don't know if Radens will fill in that position and actually work. So I just know tackle just doesn't seem to be working out with him. And from what I've seen and from basically whispers from most of the sources that I've got good contacts with, Nicholas Petit-Frere is really getting a lot of attention at the tackle position, and I've heard some good things about it. So, especially from some of the film that I've had a chance to watch him play in, I've been pretty impressed with him. I do think there's some things he has to continue to work on, especially with technique. But I feel that Frere Petit is the best option to tackle, and if Radens works at the guard position, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I hope the same thing too. I saw today that just a few minutes ago, actually, that Buck Rising said that he would expect him to be a starter at tackle. And, I'm kind of like you with PFF. I don't always go off their grades, but I mean, they're just kind of looking at what we're seeing. So if his pass blocking rating was that with them and Radens was that low, it's kind of hard to argue, especially they spent a draft pick on him too this year, so they won't. They're not going to hesitate to put him in there and start if he's got the ability to start week 1.
And really, it's just finding fit. If he fits more at the guard position, then I'm willing to let him go with the guard position. And if we got to figure out something with tackle, if Frere works at tackle, then we'll go that way. If we have to sign somebody, which if that's the case, we'll just have to wait and see what happens and who's available. But eventually,
I think that they really like. Well, they used to. I used to hear a lot about them really liking Jamarco Jones, but I haven't really heard anything else after, like a couple weeks after he got signed. And I was just looking up the depth chart has him listed as a guard behind Aaron Brewer, but then he's always been a tackle. So I don't know if that's potentially something too that could be a possibility.
And that makes sense. I mean, J-Rob does a pretty good job at finding multiple position linemen, especially in free agency. So if they want to play around and see if he'll fit in that position, I don't have a problem with that. But my biggest question is, we haven't heard a lot from Jamarco Jones. So do you feel confident enough, especially putting him in that position, if he has to start?
Yeah, maybe not as a starter, but I mean, if I was just trying to figure out, like, if Radens is moved to guard and we have Nate Davis and they like Aaron Brewer and he also moves around a lot, then I'm just not sure how that whole guard/tackle position is going to work out, but it'll be interesting to watch.
And that is definitely a great point there. I'm going to be very, very vigilant, especially knowing what we have to do to be successful to make sure Derrick Henry has lanes to run through. And, of course, with all that said, we'll be ready for our next game coming up, I believe, this Saturday, where the Titans will face the Arizona Cardinals, but they'll have one joint practice together. It's already been decided that Cliff Kingsbury and Mike Vrabel came together and felt that they didn't need to do any more work than necessary. They were only going to have one joint practice this year before their eventual showdown. So, with this game coming up, what are some of the 3 things you would like to see the Titans try to get done right before they start making the critical roster cuts?
In this game, I would like to see Tannehill and Burks and Phillips on the same field, on the field at the same time. If it's just for a drive or two, then that's fine. But I meant to bring that up while we were talking about Kyle Phillips. Is I think that's when we're going to really see his value is when Ryan Tannehill has to, if he's the second or third option, and Phillips is just going to always be there. So I'd like to see how that's going to work out, and if I know that Burks has been getting open, and I'd like to see Tannehill maybe work that out during a game or connect with him during a game and let people know that Burks is for real. And so that'd be one thing. Another one would be just better overall secondary play and seeing who is going to be. I think they kind of know who their cornerbacks are going to be, but just trying to fill out the roster. And then, just with the wide receivers, trying to figure out who's going to be the 6 or maybe 7 wide receivers that we keep. But I was seeing today that they released Terry Godwin, who had a great first preseason game. And then, I don't think that Roberson is going to make the team, but he led our team in receiving. So it's just weird to me sometimes to see how, I guess, John Robinson and the coaching staff kind of evaluate people. It doesn't always translate to stats, obviously, because, like Mason Kinsey was our leading. I think he was like second in the entire NFL in the preseason last year, and then, he didn't get a shot. So it's just interesting to see how they evaluate the wide receivers, and I'm looking forward to see who's going to be like I said, the 6 or maybe 7 wide receivers that we keep, and seeing them maybe play a little bit more with Tannehill or Malik Willis, who's in the pocket more.
Now, that being said, with the matchup here, what's one thing that Tennessee needs to do against Arizona to potentially let their guys have the opportunity to try and win the ball game?
I guess it depends on who is actually playing for the Cardinals. And I don't think they'll necessarily try to win the game. I think they're just trying to evaluate, individual performances, and maybe they throw some people out there depending on who Arizona has out there and kind of simulate a regular season matchup. But if they're actually, trying to go into this with a win and play some starters, I would just like to see the starters, look like they're in regular season form, and not just kind of phone it in. And I think that might be something that it could potentially happen with, it's week 3, everyone's ready for the regular season to start. So, just trying, as much of 100% performance as you can give when some people probably know they're going to make the team, and then other guys are fighting for the spot, and those cuts and opportunities are going to be slimmer, and the cuts are going to be coming. So just seeing those guys out there play that are on the bubble, and I think those guys are going to make the difference. And like a pass deflection here, a sack here, extra couple yards running here is going to make the difference when it comes to making the team and winning this last preseason game.
Now, you had already said that you would like to see the starters play for some significant time. How long would you play the starters in this upcoming matchup?
I wouldn't play them any more than a quarter. That'd be like the max. I think I think you know what you're going to get with Derrick Henry, and I would just want to see Tannehill play with these, like, the guys that are going to be like 4, 5, and 6 on the wide receiver roster. that's what I'm most interested in seeing. But I don't, I can understand if Tannehill has no reason to be out there. I just wanted to see it for like chemistry and we always see like Tannehill throwing these like 70-yard passes to McMath in practice. I would like to see something like that just to see it in a real game. But I don't know. I think preseason is what it is, so it's not, I'm not going to be disappointed if Tannehill or Derrick Henry or, Taylor Lewan is not out there. I can understand.
And really, my take is I wouldn't mind playing them for maybe a couple series just to kind of get the juices flowing. But a quarter to me just feels too long. I don't want to risk injury, and I don't want to show my hand, especially with a Giants game. I don't want to give out too much information. So my take is if they do play the starters, I wouldn't play them for more than a series. I feel you kind of just got to I would put some of your starters out there. I wouldn't put Derrick Henry out there. I know what Derrick Henry can do. I'm not concerned about him. And with Tannehill, it's more just along the lines of just a warm-up. I just want to see what you can do in the series.
Yeah, and then there's guys like, Robert Woods is coming off the ACL injury, so it just comes down to I think it will come down more to what happens in the joint practice. I would value that kind of stuff more than this last preseason game, other than, people trying to earn a roster spot. But as far as the starters go, I think you're going to see more of a competition in the joint practices where it seems like there's always a fight that breaks out, and it's like personal self-pride when you're doing those joint practices. So I think you would see more as far as competition with the starters in that scenario.
And I agree. I mean, really, most players aren't in favor of joint practices because it's just the wild, wild west out there. I mean, there's really no way to enforce it. So I don't mind seeing the starters come out for a little while and just play a rep. Just get the juices going. I don't want to see anybody get hurt over a meaningless preseason game. This game's basically for the guys that are trying to fill in those empty slots. They're trying to get job positions. That's who it's for. And along those lines, Malik Willis is really the one I want to see get those reps because we don't know when we're going to see him on a football field, if he comes on the football field regardless. So going forward, it's going to be an interesting situation to see how this roster shapes up, and that's another topic for another day. But I do feel that these younger guys have to understand that this is a job. And in these situations, they're trying to fill these slots. They already know who their guys are going to be starting. But believe me, there's plenty of other jobs out there. They need special teams guys. Mm-hmm. They need depth. And, of course, they need practice squad guys. So you never know what job you'd be going for. So you got to go out there and give it your best. And hopefully that's what these other guys are doing before they make the final 53-man roster. All right, everybody, I want to thank everybody tonight for joining us on the show tonight, and a big special thank you to Zach from Titans Torch for joining us on the show tonight. Zach, it has just been an honor to have you on the show. Great info, great insight, and believe me, we're dying to see what you can put out there, man. So trust me. Take that jump. Make that podcast, man. We're excited, so do it.
Thank you. I will pretty soon.
And definitely want to get you a chance to shout out to the audience and let them know where to find you on all your social media platforms.
It's Instagram, Twitter, at Titans Torch, and I think you can just put Titans Torch in YouTube and subscribe for any future videos.
All right, guys, make sure you follow and subscribe to his pages. The dude is going to put his content out there one of these days, so encourage him, inspire him. Show him you want to hear that good content. So he's got to just give him that little push, is all I'm saying.
Funny.
And don't forget, everybody, thank you for watching the show tonight. And don't forget, we are members of the Titan Upload Network. Don't forget to follow all members of the Titan Upload Network, as we've got a lot of great things going on this season. I promise you, we're getting ready for some pretty amazing stuff. Can't give you a lot of details, but trust me. Make sure you hit the Titan Upload Network and all our great content creators. We're coming up with some pretty great ideas, so stay tuned, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And once again, thank you for watching the show tonight. You're the ones that make this possible. You're the reason I get excited for making these shows. I'm going to put out that content as long as you keep coming back. I promise you, you're the reason you make this exciting and interesting, and you're the reason why I enjoy this. So thank you, the audience, for joining us again on the Power Hour tonight. We've had a great show. Another big thank you from Zach from Titans Torch for joining us. And don't forget, we've got a game coming up this week, so let's make sure that our Titans put on a show before we get to the 53-man roster. So I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Take care and tighten up. Thank you for watching this live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.